great at that, but certainly there are some people that will have those resources, and so how do we use that to our benefit? How can we advertise ourselves more as a school district? That will be something that we're looking at doing differently, updating websites, using the social media apps that are out there in terms of maybe just all the time, but also when we go to the recruiting fairs and giving kids a resource to be able to tap into us. Additional advertisements, monitoring building staffing needs. The building staffing needs is something that we've done for a long, long time, and I don't know that it necessarily has to do with recruiting, but it certainly has to do with our need and where we have our open positions at. So that process starts about March, and we start looking at our projected enrollment numbers by grade level and by building. And then we try to balance those things out as we go forward. So some decisions that were made are if we have, maybe a particular building has 3 sections of kindergarten, but they only have enough students enrolled to have 2 sections of kindergarten. And now we have an open spot, somebody has vacated that 3rd section, so we have to make a choice. Do we advertise that and try to fill it, or do we really actually need it based on our enrollment numbers? And that process goes on from March until the beginning of school. In terms of balancing those things out. We don't like to displace people. We have done it in the past based on those needs, but that's why we start so early in looking at it and try to handle some of those things through attrition if we can, but that is a big piece as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about the staffing needs at a later slide. And then the last thing that I probably will try to tackle this year is creating a local career fair. So with the opportunities that we have for all of our alternative licensure piece, finding maybe non-traditional candidates, if you want to call them that, but essentially our grow your own, not only just our high school kids, but people that work in our school district, like our classified staff as an example, what opportunities do they have? So what I'm going to try to create in the next year is a local career fair utilizing some of these people. WSU has the TAP program, K-State's got the MAP program, University of Nebraska-Kearney, and essentially inviting them all to Garden City and give them a block of time at a specific site where they get to share information about this is what we can offer you to get into education. And so we'll work on something like that in the future as well. Separations, we talked a little bit about this. So I went back and I dug up some separation data. I am missing 1 year. I don't know where it got lost in the magic, but starting back in 09-10, we had 15, and again, how do you get a 0.2 person? I don't know. So 15.2 people retired, just the right arm, I guess. And then we had 29 resignations. So total, we had 44.2 separations in the 09-10 school year. So then it continues to grow, 10, 11, 54, I won't read through all those, but really getting up to that 88 number has been kind of our max. So one of the things, again, I don't know that I have enough data to contribute to the turnover in terms of the declining number of separations, but that's certainly what we want, and we are keeping an eye on it. It is something that's important. It's something that retention committee will be looking at, and so we're down this year 73 separations with 12 retirees and 61 resignations. The 2 late that you see out there, I'll explain a little bit about that. So based on our negotiated agreement, teachers can resign essentially without penalty, roughly speaking, the 1st of June. If it's after that point, then there's liquidated damages, and there's another clause that we have to find a suitable replacement before the board can consider releasing them from their contract. So we've had 2 people that have missed that early date and have resigned at different times. And so it makes it more challenging for us, especially in a time like we are in now with not having a lot of candidates. It makes it more difficult to fill that position. So that's why that's noted there. So after all of that, our hard work, what has it produced? So right now we've hired 65 FTE, full-time equivalency people positions. And so you can see the breakdown there. 15.5 elementary positions, 11 intermediate, 6.5 middle, 15 high school, 10 special education. That gives you a breakdown of what those are. 4 principals. Typically, I wouldn't put principals on there, but 2 internal, 2 external. So 2 didn't impact anything in terms of shifting staff from one position to the other, but the other 2 internal, it's a domino effect. You move one person into this leadership role, that's going to free up a position for them. So again, just another piece of the puzzle and what we have to figure out, and then we've hired 3 nurse positions. So all total, 65 people that we've hired thus far. So breakdown by the state. I talked to you a little bit about our process and the long arms that we have to have in terms of our recruiting, and this breaks it down in all the places that we've hired teachers since the 13-14 school year. So the biggest thing is the first line is from Kansas. So we hired 52 people from Kansas this year. We would love for that number to be higher than that. But again, traditionally, about 50-50. About 50% of our people we hire from Kansas, the other 50% we have to get on the road. And so this is probably a little true in normal years, but this year you'll see that it's not. Our Kansas hires really outweigh our other non-Kansas people. So of those 52, there's 63 positions. There's 11 other candidates is all through the map. So big tailing piece is Michigan. I keep pointing to that little monitor. Big tailing piece is Michigan. Again, we recruited Michigan 10 years successfully. You can see in the early years, 13, 14, we were hiring as many as 14, 18. Lots of candidates from Michigan. But now, because of the economy changing, because kids not choosing education maybe as a pathway, there's lots of variables. But that number has dwindled significantly, where we hired 1 person from there a year ago. So what does that mean for me? That means we have to be looking at kind of that cost analysis. Is it effective for us to continue to send teams to Michigan and to some of these other places? So we'll continue to look at that. Maybe it's different sites, maybe it's different states, networking with other recruiters where they're having success. That's essentially how some of our local districts have done it when we started going to Michigan, just piggybacking on their ideas. So anticipated vacancies right now. We have 12 elementary positions right now that we're anticipating being vacant. Of those, 4 of which we filled with advanced student teachers. Advanced student teaching is a program that we have with Indepth University, and they have an exemption from the state, and they're essentially going to walk in and take over that classroom as a student teacher with some additional support from building principals, instructional coaches, an outside cooperating teacher. But those 4 positions will be filled, and then as they complete student teaching in December, they will stay in that classroom with those kids they've been working with all semester, and so those positions will be filled second semester. So then that leaves us 8 other positions at that point. We do have 4 other traditional student teaching. That's what student teaching has always looked like, and so those candidates will also be available to hire at Christmas time or second semester. We have 5 intermediate positions open currently. You can see the breakdown for middle school. Interesting with middle school, we have a math position. We currently have an offer out to a gentleman from California, so that position may go away. We have a student social studies teacher that wants to get into the transition teaching program that we talked about, so they could start off as a long-term sub, as an example, until they complete the requirements of that program. The same is true with art. English is one of those late resignations that we had, so we're expecting them to come back and fill that role if we can't fill their position prior to the start of school. And then high school, doing pretty well at the high school. We have a science position and an ELA position at Garden City High, and we have a science position at the alternative high school as well. Science position was new in order to address some scheduling needs there. We had a teacher that was a former employee that agreed to come back and teach for us for a semester. I learned this morning that she's backing out. So, again, just more pieces to the puzzle. But we do have 2 student teachers in the high school as well. So looking down the road, potentially that ELA person, if we could get through a semester with the sub, they could fill that job at semester time. And the social studies candidate that we have in high school would be licensed to go back down to the middle school and teach some 8th grade social studies once they complete it. So 2 potential hires there. 8 special education positions that we have open. So grand total right now 32. If I had to kind of massage this a little bit, I would say we're probably in the neighborhood of 20 long-term subs in order to start our school year based on this information right now. So kind of the last point that I have, sorry it's taken so long, this is a big deal, lots of information to give, but kind of goes back to one of those first things that I said is recruiting is now kind of a year-long process, and this shows a little bit of that. So we started hiring in November. and that continues. It goes maybe a little bit with our recruiting. March and April really are our hot months where we spend a lot of time on the road, a lot of time on recruiting fairs, and so that's true as well based on the number of hires, and then things start to dwindle off a little bit as people get in position, and again, the availability of candidates begin to decline. But we'll keep at it, and that's kind of what we do. So, with that said, can I field any questions for you?
Board members, any questions for Mr. Hope? There's so much detail in there.
Sorry for the length.
No, it's fascinating, I have to say, because you're into so many different things, and you described early on how things have shifted over time in order to try to respond to this need. Okay, you do have.
I kind of just wondered, how do we fare compared to neighboring districts? Do you have any sense of that?
You know, again, it kind of goes back to reporting, but just maybe anecdotally, just going to superintendent's council, talking to some other places. You know, in some cases, I think we're better than some districts. One of the smaller districts in western Kansas, I talked to their superintendent. They started out with a few elementary unfilled positions last year, and if you portion that out based on their size, number of teachers, based on our size, number of teachers, we were actually in better shape than they were. So certainly, you know, western Kansas is kind of in this together, if you will. They're all dealing with the same thing, but I don't want to just separate that, because eastern Kansas schools are now facing the same thing. They're struggling to get, you know, the candidates that they need as well, and so as they're struggling, that's impacting us more too, you know, because there's not enough candidates to go around right now. So we are competing against Shawnee Mission School District. We are competing against Las Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona. You know, Las Vegas, a year ago when I talked to their recruiter, they were hiring 2,000 teachers in a season. So in that spring season, that's what they were looking for. So do you want to go sight unseen to Garden City, or do you want to go sight unseen to Las Vegas? They're going to know at least an idea what Las Vegas gives them. And so, you know, we have to take that extra step to get them here, walk through that process. But locally, Dean, I think we're as good as everybody else.
Other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that in-depth report. And I can't help but be amazed how you are able to address them. I'm sure part of that's experience. Maybe the past person that used to be in that position several cycles ago helped you out.
That's right. That's right. Really laid the groundwork, foundation there.
Thank you. Okay, autism team information under curriculum.
Good evening. It's back here. I'm Dixie Teeter, and I'm a speech technologist for the district. I kind of wear a few different hats. I'm a speech technologist. I also serve on our autism team for the district, and then I'm a regional autism consultant for the state of Kansas. I'm Melanie Garrison. I am an early childhood teacher. My classroom there at Garfield is a structured preschool classroom, geared for kids with communication needs that may be more complex than some of the other children there. And I'm also on the autism team. I'm Rebecca Kilgore, and I teach over at Charles Stone's. I have the 12 through 16-year-old students that are severely handicapped. Most of my kids go straight to the high school. A lot of nonverbals, behavior issues, things like that.
I'm Caitlin Sapillo. I teach at Arthur Brown Elementary. I teach the self-contained kindergarten classroom, and I'm also on the autism team as well.
So we're super excited to be here tonight. One, because this is, for me, I'm super excited. They must be too, because they all jumped on board. When Glenda asked us, I think Renee and Glenda were discussing the need to maybe come and present to you a little bit about what our autism team does, and maybe we really want to share with you the trainings that the state is offering us and the opportunities that have given our teachers here that have jumped on board, which is so exciting for me. For a variety of reasons, when you can talk shop with the people who've also had the the same training as you. It makes life so much simpler to band together and do best for kids. And it's amazing how we can just sit in a room now and talk about different vocabulary and thought process behind what we do in some of our rooms now. And so it's awesome to have others on board, and it's super exciting. So today what we're going to talk about is called Structured Teach. And I'll give you a little bit of background, and then we've had two that actually went to the training this summer. Melanie went a couple years ago, and I've gone every year since 2009 except for the last year. And so I was there when they first started, and it started in 2009, and it was by, formerly known as Kansas Instructional Support Network. And now it's known as the long word, KSDE, TAS, and ATBS. Everybody always asks me what it stands for, and I can never tell them right, so I wrote it down. It's Technical Assistance Support Network, and it's the Autism and Tertiary Behavior Supports team. And they developed this amazing program, the best professional development I think we can ever send our teachers to, for working with kids who have complex communication needs, complex academic needs, just complex behavior needs. So it's amazing. And what it is, the purpose is to establish a structured learning environment that capitalizes on student strengths and addresses the needs that lead to on-task behavior and decreases challenging behavior and off-task behaviors. And really, this program was developed, you'll hear about the TEACH program, which is spelled differently, T-E-A-C-C-H, in, okay, you get this name right now, I had it in the back of my mind when I was sitting over there, from North Carolina. And it was a program based for students with autism, specifically. And it's thousands of dollars to go to their training. You could go for 2 weeks and learn all about ABA therapy and treatments and the type of evidence-based practice for students on the autism spectrum. And this is kind of a Kansas spin to teach. I've always said, since I learned this program in 2009, that the KSDE really, the group that's heading our department for the ATBS department, has really been forward thinking about what we could bring to Kansas. Because not all school districts can afford thousands of dollars to send those teachers, to, that's okay, my phone went off earlier, so we're all good. And so they had this forward thinking of starting this summer program, and it's amazing. And so our district, our team in our district, and I believe the state of Kansas believes, that this Summer Institute is what it's called, is not just for kids on the autism spectrum. It honestly is for kids that meet the broad spectrum of challenging behaviors, challenging communication skills, challenging academics, who need to be taught differently. And so with that, what SI, we all call it SI, term for SI is Summer Institute. It's a week-long training, so each of these teachers have given up a week long in their summer, and all of these three have small babies. And I was there at one time, so I know what that means to give a week in the summer off, to leave and you're out of town. It used to be in Hutchinson, Kansas, and now it's in Derby. The last year was in Derby. Teachers get a training from providing a variety of professionals from the state. So we have Wichita State professors, we have KU professors, we have people who've been regional autism consultants for years in many different districts. Lots of teachers meet in this week-long training. And what they do is they makeshift a whole school for one summer, for this whole week. They makeshift classrooms, and they actually bring in students as well. So while the teachers are getting academic learning throughout the day, we also have a camp going for students with significant needs down the hall in different areas. So you get the training, and then you get to go watch it put in place. You get to learn about visual support, and then you get to go see it. You get to learn about communication supports, and then you go see it being done by teachers who've been doing this for a while. And it just made so much sense for me. And when I was a participant, which maybe they'll share with you, when I was a participant in this program, I wanted so much more. I wanted to be in the room more than I wanted to be sitting at the desk. And so then when I got to be an intern the next year, which we'll talk about, and then to actually be a master teacher and be in the room full time, it was so invigorating. It was just so awesome to learn about the ins and outs and how we can support kids in different ways. Because it really is out of the box thinking when we talk about supporting these kids with really significant needs. There's lots of learning that goes on in this place, lots of learning. So they get to actually see it in action with students during the week. They have 3 levels. We have a participant level, which 2 of them were this last year. We have 2 other teachers that weren't here tonight that really wanted to be here as well. Paxton, Ryan Bolt is her new name, and Amanda Wilkinson, and they work at Victor and Alice. Now we'll have that, both programs are at Victor and Alice. We'll a lot of work to do in that program for the next coming year, but it'll be great. That couldn't be here tonight. And then Mel and I actually have done all 3. We've been a participant, intern, and a master teacher. And the others then are Caitlin and Rebecca, Paxton, Amanda, and Elizabeth Merchant. Couldn't be here tonight as well. She's also one that was a participant this summer. So we're super excited, and I think I have a personal selfishness about this is we started Mel's Room with what we call structured teach approach 3 years ago. We're going on our 4th year, and every year we knew we wanted to broaden. This is at preschool level, and we'd say, gosh, we wish that our teachers at the elementary and at the next level and the next level could go to the summer structured institute, because it's a different way of thinking with your kids. And when we get them going in preschool, we would love to see it, by our own selfish wants of the same thing happening in elementary and happening at the junior high. And so I'm super excited because now we have an elementary and the junior high component apart with us, and we all can collaborate and talk the same thing. So when we transition these kids from preschool to kindergarten, she knows what we mean by visual schedule and reinforcement system and backwards chaining and some of the lingo that we might talk for behavior piece, okay? So I'm super excited. So I guess I'm going to let these two share real quick about their experience this summer for Summer Institute.
It was one of the best trainings I have ever been to, because we actually learned in the classroom and then we applied it right away. And then we went back to the drawing board. If it didn't work for our student, we went back to the drawing board and redid the schedule. And I really could put everything I learned to use in my classroom. I go to so many trainings that don't apply to my kids because my kids are so much lower. And it's like, why am I sitting here? This training was perfect for my classroom, and it was set up the right way. In fact, I took something that I learned this summer because I taught ESY and brought it back to my kids, and it worked wonderful. So I'm so excited to use it in the classroom this year, because I'm a big one on not wasting time. Don't waste my kids' time. They've already, some of them have had time wasted when they were at a school in a previous district, and my kids don't need that. They need to be engaged at all times, and this does that for them. I've seen a reduction in behaviors because of it. And even my kids, they were at the high school this summer, and I was kind of scared because my kids don't do well with, different places, different people. And they really rose to the occasion, and they just really enjoyed using the structured teach. Like, we did the folders, and they knew what to expect. So all my kids, not just one of them, but they really did well with it.
I jumped on board to sign up as soon as I saw that it was an opportunity after observing in Mel's Room. I've dabbled a little bit and tried out some different supports with some of my students already. And so now being able to go this summer and see the whole picture, we're completely redoing our entire classrooms, our setup and everything. And we have the resources to do it now. Not only did we sit and we learned about it, we didn't just go into the classroom and watch. We went into the classroom and it's like, okay, this time it's your turn and you're going to go teach the student. So we had hands-on time with the student. If something didn't go right, we had time to go restructure it and go back and teach it again, which was really cool. And then also we each have a TASN coach assigned to us for the upcoming year. And so that's a pretty phenomenal part of the training as well, because now when I get back and I'm like, oh, I wanted to try this and I just don't know exactly how to do it, I can call my coach. And we all have days already on the calendar that our coaches are coming down to work with us before school starts to get everything in place. So.
One thing I wanted to add, I forgot to add, is what I think is great is that the teachers, they're doing it in Garfield. When I get my kids in a couple years, they're going to already have that because VO's doing it. Because I get my kids from VO mostly, and it's going to help them in the long run already have that everything in place, so then I can just move on from there. I don't have to worry about teaching the basics.
And we'll introduce you what structured teaches too. I just wanted to give you some personal experiences, and then we'll share with you what structured teaches. But so the program's changed just a little bit, and I know Glenda wanted to make sure we share with you the Indepth teaching program that they're now pulling together, the Kansas State Department of Education. We used to just word of mouth, and we'd ask people, like when I was in different districts, I'd say, hey, you need to apply, or you need to apply, and we would go this route. And we still do that. We do a lot of recruiting to attend these. These trainings are free. It's a week-long free training. I guess I shouldn't say free, because we do support, the district supports us greatly by offering folks to help us with hotel and gas to get there. But as far as the actual training and getting your hands-on experience, all of that comes, all of the material they give us, everything is supported by the Kansas State Department of Ed. So Melanie is going to talk to you now about the new process. They are kind of doing a different staffing advancement process is what they're calling it, where we start here and work our way up, and this is the first year for that. So I'm gonna let her explain what the Indepth program is. Sure. So before Dixie and I were participants, then we applied to be an intern and then a master teacher. Now they are changing the requirements a little bit to where it is a 2-year process to become a master teacher. And if you've already been a master teacher, then you can do an accelerated version, which I signed up for this summer. So I just actually was in Kansas City all last week doing the first week of the accelerated training, and then next week I'll be in Derby all week for the second week of that. And Indepth stands for Integration of Strategies and Techniques for Effective Practice Educating Children with Autism. And their main goal is just to kind of spread the word, really, to get as many teachers taught in these different kind of areas. Yeah, techniques. The techniques. So that way the students are getting the best education that they can in wherever they live. So with that, like I said, we have the 2 weeks of classes, and then after that, if like the participants here, they will have a 2-year process in order to do that. So, but they're hoping that with these trainings we have a reduction in challenging behaviors, better relations with the family because the students, the programming is going to be systematic, specific, and the decisions for programming changes are all data-based. We wanted to show you a few pictures from our classrooms and maybe a little bit about what Structure Teach is about now that you've heard about our trainings and things that we're beginning to go to. I will tell you, I've been in this field a really long time, and when I started, I had no idea how to work with significant needs kids, and it really comes from hands-on experience because, and it's getting better, our professors in colleges are doing a better job of talking about autism and significant needs, but back then, I didn't hear autism but maybe a handful of times. And so a lot of my training has come from going to these different, a variety of things that the state puts on and allows me to be a part of. And so now I feel like I can attack them better. I know what I can have a goal, I have thought, I have some process, and I know it's scary to become a first-year teacher as we're talking about retention, coming into these classrooms with really significant needs kids and not a complete understanding of where we need to go. So what this does, it has given me a framework and a way to attack students and their curriculum and how to provide the best instruction that we can, and I think they'll say the same. And I know 2 of them are just starting, but I bet you if you talk to them at the end of next year, they'll even be more sold on this concept of what we're doing. So what it does is it provides, obviously, structure in the environment. It provides security and familiarity. There's something about our students, especially not just students with autism, but we know students with autism, thrive on structure and routine and visual supports. So it gives security and familiarity when we provide these structures in place. When we think about developing a program, it helps eliminate other stimuli, and it helps us focus on really what we need. We know kids with autism, kids with actual just any disability has a hard time pulling out ADHD, any disability has a hard time pulling out the external stuff to really focus on what needs to get done. And so this type of programming, Structure Teach, really supports that. It also supports generalization. So when we started our preschool classroom, yes, it looks a little different, and we would encourage any of you to come visit. We would love to show up our classroom in Mel's room because we've spent hours over the summer and overnights in developing visual supports and schedules and just getting the room structured. So we love to show it off, and so if you all want to come sometime, I would recommend maybe after school. It's a little hard in the day when you have new people all in the room, but we would love to have you see kids too. The kids would be fine and they would survive, but we might not survive, but they would. We would love to have you come and see really what it means to be put together. But this is kind of the basis of what it is, the elements of the structure. So when they went to training, and things we learn about are these basic 5 areas that we want to put to place. And honestly, I feel like it's just good teaching, but it's good teaching, but it's also a system that special ed teachers really need to grasp in outside of the box sort of thinking. Physical structure, individual schedules, work systems, routines and strategies, and visual structure. And what we mean by that is physical structure is just actually the way you arrange your room can make things so much better for kids. And all teachers know this, but it's really highly important for kids with autism or kids with special needs. And so this is a picture of Mel's classroom a couple years ago, but every area has a purpose, and they all rotate in that area. It looks a little different than a preschool classroom. When you're used to kids just playing all over. Our kids don't know how to play. And so we have to get their attention and their ability to understand what it means to be able to be ready to play. And so it does look a little non-traditional when you come into our classroom, But we get kids started in this program and they start to understand what it means to be able to focus and attend and sit and do and play. And then we practice actual playing with objects, and then we move them into other classrooms. So our goal is to not have them in this room all the time, but to just give them their base and get started and learn those pre-academic skills that they need. And then we move them into other classrooms. So we transitioned, 3 or 4 kids out this spring who shared. We shared kids with another classroom, and they got more of that traditional type play, but they were ready for it because they were actually focusing on peers and imitation when they couldn't do that before. So that's kind of physical structure. This is the more physical structure that we use in the room. So kids know their boundaries and their spots on the carpet. They have a space, they have a picture, they know where they go. It's very organized, it's very structured. Kids know where their seat is every time. It doesn't change. They know there's that predictability of when I come into group. And sometimes our kids freak out when we come to group because they don't want to be in a big setting, even though that looks like a small setting. It's really a big setting to some of our kids. And it's a challenge just to get them to come. And so if we can provide more structure to help them want to be there and understand what we're doing at large group. This is a direct instruction area. You'll see that everything is kind of color-coded for us too. Green is start, yellow is we're almost done, and red is finished. We also have in our other classrooms, this is the classroom at VO. She's got a communication center, a math center, a reading center, and they rotate within those. Again, things are very structured and organized in those classrooms. We use a lot of individual schedules. Every kid is different for individual schedules. These are it gives them a concrete idea of what's happening in their day. And these are just some, this is an object schedule on the left. So kids who are nonverbal, very low functioning, who need more than just written or picture, we use actual objects, and that supports them to get where they need to go. We might have a check system for kids who are older. We have a first next card, kids who can't handle a full schedule, because we have some that just freak out when they see 10 things to do. We have a first next schedule. On the right, again, those are for, a kid who can handle the whole day and sees where he's going. This schedule on the left is a pull-apart schedule. So kids go check their schedule, they pull it off a wall, and they go to a spot and put it in. I have seen more kids with autism become independent with just a visual schedule more than you'll ever know. And the thought of the parent having to hold their hand and take them everywhere is not independence. And so we're really working on independence with visual supports and schedules. And you would not believe it, but we have little 3-year-olds in Mel's classroom who, at the beginning, kick, scream, and fight and tear everything apart and pull things down. By the end of the year, can flip that schedule and know exactly where to go in the next spot independently. I mean, once in a while, we'll have to guide them over, but the majority of the time, they can get where they need to be. And that's what it's about, is teaching them independence. This is another type of schedule that we use at Victor and Alice for a lot of our older kids who just need a checkoff schedule. It's really small and simple. The green side is morning, red side means I'm going home. Sometimes if kids see the visuals of the reinforcement in between their workday, they're more apt to get something done if they see, oh, recess is nice. This is the type of schedule we use in Mel's room, and we have 3-year-olds who do this beautifully. They flip that and they go to the little tub and they put that little green marker right inside the tub, and they know exactly where to go. We have work systems. So work system just tells you how much work is to do, when you need to do it, and when it's finished, what do you need to do. And that can be done across the board in our special education department. And so these are some examples. This is our direct instruction in Mel's classroom. This is our communication area. So we start with the green, yellow, and red, and you see at the top, there's the first then board at the top. So kids pull those off, put it on the board, and pull it together. So that's the structure in place. These are examples of work tasks that we would do with our kids. So it's like about sorting, putting in. These are for lower functioning kids who need practice with attention and attending and figuring things out. This is one for an older kid. We use a binder, and it says, if you see it, it says do the green 1 and then put it behind the red folder. Do green 2 and put it behind the red folder. You're very structuring the system that they need to be able to do the work. That makes sense. So we can put any curriculum we want in place, but it's a system to help them work. This is another system for older kids. So we have a lot of work task things that we do. And then we have routines and strategies. And again, we do a lot of routine and strategies. Things that you do over and over and over with our kids is the best. They get really good at it. And so we provide them with little jobs in the morning, like feeding a fish or watering the plant. And you think how simple that is, but for some of our kids who are significant needs, that is the most challenging thing for them to do, is to follow through with a plan every morning and follow through with what they need. And so we provide scripts on the left, like it says to get your backpack, hand in your report, sign in, and do the lunch count, so he knows exactly what he's doing each day, and then you flip it over as he's finished, so he sees it's being completed. There's our plant helper. His duties, you can see it across there, he's got little steps. We break it down into steps, and that's what he does during the day. Feed the fish, feed the plant. Visual structure is big for us. We do a lot of visual supports. This one is pretty simple. It's just outlining their name, and green and red means, obviously green's go, red is stop. This is a visual support for washing your hands. We have visual supports for using the restroom. We have visual supports for behavior supports. So when kids are in meltdown mode, the less you can talk, the better. So we use little visual supports and flip. Of course, these teachers are amazing because these aren't, you can go buy them, but a lot of our teachers make them and make them individual to kids. And so there's a lot of making and lamination. And I know we're thanking our principals when we're done, because I know whenever we walk into Josh's room, he says, "What do you want now?" Because we're always asking for a lamination or extra Velcro to help make us the things that we need to do for the visual supports for our kids. This is a visual support, simple on the line. It shows kids where to stand and how far apart you need to stand. Our kids that have significant needs, sometimes that frontal lobe and that connection of what I need to do socially and where I need to stand is very difficult. So we provide lots of those things. So when we do those, all of those things come in the big picture then of how do we put that place into our classroom. And we're using what's called what we have termed learning rotations. And so we might have a direct instruction time. We're going to have an independent work area. We're going to have a sensory area, self-directed choice, and then we have a group time. And someone else might throw in a couple of others like a reading time and a math time. But our direct instruction time would also include reading and math, because that's where we're going to hit our IEP goals. And so we get very structured then. And so all of those components we just talked about will go into every one of these centers in our classrooms. So that's kind of how we attack, I guess, our curriculum and how we're going to encourage kids to continue to learn. And then, of course, we have inclusion, and we have all those other things that happen, too. These are just a little piece of our day, because we have lots of inclusion and lots of recess, and they have to go to their peers with lunch, and we have just lots of things happening during the day, especially in our upper grade level.